This is the 19th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, X-Zone Lures, Shoreline Boat and RV Repair, Spro, Gamakatsu, Big Bite Baits, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. We'll just call this the Week of Champions. We had Matt Steffen, the winner of the finale of the MLF Invitational on La Crosse, Mississippi River on yesterday, and then his wife also jumped on for a unique perspective. You know, he got stuck in the lock and they didn't think they were going to get in, and he ended up getting the win. He got the BPT invite, and today's guest knows a little bit about navigating through the invitationals. When he qualified, it was the MLF Pro Circuit, jumped up to the BPT, and then his life changed in about 2 hours. So that's what we're going to get into. If you watch on Saginaw Bay, the champion of Saginaw Bay, Matt Becker. And then he also, I don't want to say he came from nowhere because he was in the mix, but I'm not going to lie, there were some names up there with Ott and Jacob Wheeler, and then the year that Alton Jones Jr. had. And then Becker, like all those guys, like caught him. Alton missed the cut. Alton Jr. missed the cut, but he didn't have a horrible tournament. But like Ott and Jacob and Matt all made the top 10, which made for great viewing. I really enjoyed watching it. We'll talk to him about it. And then he went straight to another tournament, and now he's in the parking lot of a Lowe's with a lot of hardware and big checks behind him. And he's taking time. I don't know if we'll ask him. Matt Becker, are you taking time out of your practice to jump on BTL this morning? Because that's the last thing I want you to do.
I mean, kind of, but I'm not too worried about it. You know, I'm still kind of riding high from these two guys back here that it's kind of hard to focus on the next tournament already. That's for sure.
Congratulations. You go into the final BPT of the season, and you obviously had goals. I mean, your goals had to be win the tournament and win Angler of the Year, and you accomplished both of those. Or what was your mindset going into a tournament that we kind of knew based on what we'd seen with NPFL tournaments in the past is a tricky venue? It's not just drive out and catch 23 pounds of smallmouth as we saw.
No, that Saginaw Bay was really tricky. And, you know, it's a great place to have the final event of the year just because we had never been there. I mean, probably everyone in the field had really never been there before, definitely never fished a tournament there. So it was a cool place, tricky, really hard to figure out, largemouth, smallmouth in play. So it was a really cool event for the final event of the year. But, you know, really the second half of the season, I started realizing that, you know, I might actually have a shot at Angler of the Year, be just the way things were working out. And it really became my main focus. That's all I could think about was winning Angler of the Year. You know, that means more to me than any title in the sport is winning Angler of the Year. So I really started thinking about it, and heading into Saginaw Bay, that's all I was focused on, was just finishing as high as I could to get as many points as I could. And hopefully some other guys stumbled just a little bit. You know, we were all within 10 points of each other. So it was really tight heading into that final event. And my focus was just finish as high as I could. And really it wasn't until, you know, 3/4 of the way through the final day that I even winning the tournament crossed my mind.
What do you think allowed you to come across a school of those fish that so many of the best smallmouth fishermen in the world really struggled with? It was weird watching it live because you beat everybody. I mean, the cool thing with watching it was they know. I actually talked with Jacob Wheeler yesterday, and I said, man, it was the first time that I've ever seen you on live where you were kind of at a loss. Like, I don't know if you've watched that, but he's standing out there and he's gosh danging and he's looking and he's sighing and he's like, man, I said it felt like you knew it wasn't going to happen. And he's like, yeah, I was kind of in a pickle. And then you had Van Dam, who's like, I got to catch back-to-back 5-pounders to try to catch Matt Becker on this thing. What do you think it was that kind of put you so far ahead of everybody, especially on that last day when you had Van Dam trying to win in his final regular season, you had Ott trying to track you down for the Angler of the Year, and you had Jacob Wheeler, and who just had to finish 4th for Angler of the Year, and you like put it to bed early.
Yeah,
like not early, but I mean, you
yeah.
made it to where it was dang near impossible to catch you.
For sure. So, I mean, the group of fish that I ended up winning the tournament on, they were not there in practice. So what I really think happened is we had a big full moon in practice, and that really messes up the Great Lakes fish. You know, the gobies kind of spawn, so that, you know, gets them all messed up. They kind of scatter out. They don't group up as much during the full moon. So those fish, I have no idea where they might have been during practice. But after, you know, that was on Sunday. So we're talking a week prior to the final day. And so in the knockout round, I knew I had to practice and find a fresh group of fish. And that's when I stumbled into them. And they were fresh. They were dumb. They were big. I mean, they would eat as soon as your bait got down there. There was no question about it. Like they had just got there. They were fresh, beautiful looking fish. So, I mean, that was definitely the key, was finding that fresh group, because there was another area with a good amount of smallmouth in, but everybody was fishing there. You know, there was 4 or 5 guys there every day of competition. And by the weekend, they were highly pressured. And I just knew that you weren't going to be able to catch a big bag there on the final day. So that's why I started looking for other stuff and ended up finding that. But man, to beat those 2 names, I mean, really the whole top 10, but especially to go out on top with Kevin there on his final tournament, and to beat Wheeler and Ott and Alton Jones and Angler of the Year. I mean, it just means so much more to me.
Do you think those fish had ever seen a lure?
I mean, probably they've probably seen a lure, but definitely not in a while. I mean, they were fresh, like beautiful looking fish that, I don't know. I still don't know why they were there. I mean, it was just kind of a meant to be thing that they showed up there, because they weren't even really sitting on anything. It was just kind of a group of fish that was just roaming around a flat.
And you just picked them off.
Yeah.
Like just boom,
so
boom,
like
boom, boom.
I would see them on the live scope. You know, I'd see a little cluster of, you know, maybe 10 of them. Mm-hmm. And I'd be able to catch 1 or 2 of them, and then they'd kind of bust up a little bit. And I'd come back like a half hour, 45 minutes later, and they'd kind of be grouped up again. And you know, once I found them, if I could follow them around and not lose them, I could just keep catching them. But once I caught a couple, they would kind of spook off and scatter out. But they kept coming back to this little like 100-foot square. They would be somewhere in there every time I came back, you know, a half hour later or whatever. And I really have no idea why. There was nothing special there, nothing on the bottom, no rocks or drop-offs or bait fish, anything. It like the only thing I can think of is some kind of
materialized.
Yeah, just like some kind of underwater current break that we really couldn't see or understand. But I mean, that's the only thing I can think of why those fish were staying in that one little zone.
At what point did you realize no one's catching me in the Angler of the Year race or in the tournament?
I mean, probably when I caught that last 5-pounder that it put me up to 22 pounds for the day, I was like, man, it's going to be pretty hard for anyone to catch me in the tournament. You know, the Angler of the Year stuff, I was nervous up until the last minute, because, I mean, you got Jacob Wheeler. It's the best angler in the world right now. And all he had to do was catch a 3.5-pounder to jump up the standings far enough to still win Angler of the Year. So, I mean, that was nerve-wracking just thinking that, but it was out of my control. You know, I was like, I did my job, you know, we're going to win the tournament regardless. We got a 5-pound lead. So I feel like that's in the bag. But then again, in the back of my mind, I'm like, it's Kevin Van Dam. Like, you know how many times people have been Van Dammed and, you know, their first win or their only win stolen by.
I was waiting for it. I was like, he's got 13 minutes. He's going to do it. Like,
yeah,
I had no doubt in my mind that he was like, with 13 minutes, he's like, this is a waste of time. I hate to do it to you guys. It's pouring, but there's a rock up here. I caught back to back in practice. We're going. And I'm like, it's going down. It's going to freaking happen.
Yep, those thoughts were running through my mind the whole time. And I'm like, man, like, please don't do it to me. Just Like, please don't Van Dam me.
Well, what does this do for your career right now? I mean, you're at a point where, how old are you now?
I'm 31.
You're 31 years old, and you go out on the final day of this thing, and you have everything ahead of you, but you also could have cashed a $16,000 check and had a great year and been in the top 5 of the Angler of the Year. Major sponsors happy to move on. But when you roll back in at the end of that day, you're basically got $250,000 in the bank account. You're number 1 out of the entire BPT, and you have an MLF Bass Pro Tour trophy. Like, that's some pretty big life changes in the snap of a finger.
Yeah, I mean, that part's still sinking in, to be totally honest. You know, the last couple of days, it's just kind of been a blur, and like I haven't even had a chance to like settle down and really think about what it's going to do for the rest of my life and the rest of my career. I mean, every conversation I've had with sponsors and people have been great. So I feel like that side of it's going to be really good, and hopefully we can get set up for a while that you know, we can do this for a really long time.
All right, let's address the elephant in the room. I see the comments over there. 99% of these people don't think I'm going to mention it or talk about it, but I want to go back to Cayuga. You cool talking about that? Because let me see some of these comments over here are people saying, hella bass. Were those fish dumber than betting smallmouth at Cayuga? I blame MLF for this whole fiasco. The screw up before, during, and after the Cayuga. I couldn't lay my head down at night knowing what he did, then receive a title. I've dove into this. I said my piece on BTL kind of when it went down. Like I said, I've talked to a lot of anglers that were and weren't involved in this. Are you cool with going back and actually talking about like what the hell actually happened, why people are upset, and why you 100% can lay your head down at night knowing that you received that title 100% above board?
Absolutely. Let's squash it right now, because I know I have a 100% innocent man. We did nothing wrong. And yeah, I would love to talk about it. And because I mean, a lot of people just don't know. They see there's a certain few people on the internet that want to spread rumors and spread, you know, misinformation, but they weren't there. They have no idea what was said and what went down. So I would love to talk about it, clear the air, and hopefully squash all this for good.
All right, have at it, because I'm not even sure where to start on this. But the scene basically was the question. The question was the snagging of the fish, or the fish hooked out. I wouldn't even say that. If you want to do it technically, it's the fact that there were what was at least one angler who did not properly show his marshal where the hook was on a bedding fish. The press release did not say that that fish was actually snagged, that it was intentionally snagged. It was basically a DQ for that event for not properly showing the marshal where the fish was hooked. Correct. That, as far as I understand. And I'm going to put some of the blame on that on MLF, because they did away with the everyday marshals that were at every single event in years past, knew the rule book forward and backwards, and went to volunteer marshals, 99% of which do a fantastic job, understand the rules, and take it very seriously. But it's not like, it's kind of like reffing a NHL game with like junior A refs instead of NHL refs. There's just going to be a little bit of discrepancy. That's just my opinion on that. But what you were involved with had nothing to do with that. Every fish you hooked in the mouth, the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I mean, there was a few that I even hooked outside the mouth, and we let them go, no question. You know, it was fairly easy to do. When, you know, when you're throwing at a bed, you're not looking at the fish. You're 50 to 100 feet away from the bed. You're just throwing at a spot where you know the fish is, and your line starts swimming off, and you set the hook and it's hooked under the chin. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. You literally could not have tried to snag that fish. So yeah, I mean, it happened, and it definitely happened to plenty of other people throughout the tournament that, you know, never got mentioned or even seen anywhere. And, you know, there was no issues with that as far as MLF handling the rules. I mean, they handled it perfectly.
So this is where there were a quarter of the field was basically it came down to guys going, oh, these guys are going back and they're catching the same fish twice, which in the MLF rule book states that you can't catch the same fish twice in a day while sight fishing, while visually sight fishing for them. Correct?
Correct. That was the rule. So since all this has happened, we've updated the rule, just so this.
But
this
in that tournament, what did the rule read like in that tournament?
The rule read that you could not visibly sight fish for the same fish multiple times in one day.
Okay.
Visibly, the key there was visibly sight fish. So that means literally watching your bait fall into the bed and watching the bass eat your bait. Visibly sight fishing. We went over this rule at the beginning of the year, the first meeting of the year. We spent literally 30 minutes going over this rule with everyone asking questions. And I thought it was very clear that we went over this rule. We knew what was legal and what was not legal. And it was super clear then. And then before the Cayuga tournament, in the pre-tournament meeting, we went over it again. And even during the tournament director kept reiterating this rule and made it very clear to me and to all the other anglers what exactly was legal and not legal.
So long story short, did you get polygraphed for it and pass it, and everyone else did too?
Yep. I don't know how many there was, but I did. Of course, all the accusations started flying after the tournament. So I got fully investigated, took a polygraph at St. Clair. Absolutely no issues there, passed it. And I mean, I've heard all the rumors about that, I got asked easier questions than other people, so I couldn't fail, or they manipulated my test results so that I would pass. And like that is all completely false. Like, there is absolutely no reason that MLF would do that. Like, I don't understand why people would even begin to think that or say that. Like, this is a tournament organization. They literally handled this by the book perfectly. And the way the rule was written at the tournament, I or anybody else that were doing similar things did not break the rule. And it's end of story. It came out of the tournament director's mouth. That's the boss of the week. And no rules were breaking. So that's where it ends right there.
There you go. What is it? What did they change it to now?
So they've reworded it and made it a lot more specific so that once you identify a fish is on a bed, you can only catch, weigh, and score it once.
Okay.
So whether that's in practice, in the first day of the tournament, once you identify and know that fish is spawning, you can only catch it once. And
wait, so you can't catch it in practice and then catch it again in the tournament?
No, it's
okay.
The score, the catch, weigh, and score part.
Okay.
So, but if you identified it as a bedding fish in practice, now you know it's a bedding fish and you can only weigh it once per day.
All right. There we go.
Competition. So, I mean, you could still catch it every day of competition if you wanted, all 4 days, but you can only catch it once per day.
All right, there we go. We're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, I want to talk to you. I want to go back to the final BPT. I want to talk to you about what it was like going up against KVD, kind of maybe some of the interactions you had. Obviously saw the picture from when you were a kid and met KVD. That had to be really special. So Matt Becker, the BPT Angler of the Year for 2023, beat a lot of good guys, and the Saginaw Bay champion. It is BTL. It's already a Wednesday. We're already like halfway through the week. That's hard to believe. Sitting in a Lowe's parking lot. Are you in Ogdensburg?
Yep, Ogdensburg. Yep, I'm going to be
in Ogdensburg, New York.
Once we're done.
We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
big guy. You know, a lunker. A two-sandwich-eating kind of man. And on behalf of all of those bigger, I gotta say it once and for all, it's bad enough that the fish look smaller in our hands. The last thing we should have to worry about is getting quality outdoor clothing that fits. Avco, any fish, any water.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
He just cleared up an inch.
All right, welcome back, Matt Becker. You got a co-pilot. You're making her sit there for an hour?
Oh, yeah, no, I'll sit here for as long as you want. I had to take the hoodie off. It's getting a little steamy in the truck here, so.
I got you. You also won Rookie of the Year, didn't you?
Well, I don't know if they really recognize that because I feel like anyone who qualifies for the Bass Pro Tour really isn't a rookie. I mean, they're pretty established and they've been around the sport for a little bit. But, I mean, if you're technically speaking, I mean, yeah, I was the highest finishing rookie.
I think that you shouldn't have a Rookie of the Year for the first year when they brought everybody over. But then if you're qualifying through the pro circuit or invitationals, if you're now going to deem that the AAA, even though it was the top level that you fished for a number of years, then you are a rookie on the BPT. So I think you should technically have had 3 trophies.
I only have 2 arms, so I can only hold 2 at a time. But
you didn't get anything for that, for Rookie of the Year, for being at your first year, like no ATV or a tent, maybe like a grill or something.
So I won Rookie of the Year on the FLW Tour in 2018, and all I got was a trophy then. It was in 2019 they started giving away the Polaris, and I was like, oh, cool. So I missed out on the cool ATV. I could use that thing now, but no, I'm just messing around with that. You know, I'll take the Angler of the Year over Rookie of the Year any year.
What was it like in this event, mixing it up with Kevin in his final tournament? Kind of what is your relationship with him? And then when did you realize that you were going to be in this storyline of his final regular season event?
You know, I mean, I've got this was really the first year that I've been around him much and, you know, got to fish against him. I didn't really have many interactions with him at all this year. You know, we'd say hi and talk for a minute here and there, but, you know, a really special moment was after the final day, after everything's done, all the interviews, all the fans signing autographs. It's literally just me and him left under this podium, and he comes over and congratulates me, and we talk for a few minutes and grab a few pictures. And that was really special to me, just to have Kevin come up and congratulate me on beating him after, you know, I'm sure you guys have seen the picture of me and Kevin when I was 13 years old in 2005 at the Classic. Like, I looked up to him then, and I remember cheering for him, rooting for him to win the Classic that year. And then, to come full circle and fish against him on his final day and come out on top. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Do you think that the Northern guy, I mean, you're originally from what, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, around Pittsburgh.
Do you think that the Northern guys, I'm from Illinois, which is the Midwest kind of one, but it's 6 hours from Kalamazoo, where I grew up.
Right.
Do you think that those Northern anglers, when he came in and was so dominant with his style and showed that he could catch him on the TVAs and down south and in Florida and basically all over the country and in Texas, really gave you, I mean, your developmental years were right in his prime, really gave those Northern guys who were like, man, we're at a disadvantage because we're not fishing 12 months out of the year, we don't know, we can't go down to these fisheries, gave you guys a boost to say, holy cow, here's a dude from Michigan who's doing it? So there's a little bit more of a connection between those Northern guys that kind of grew up with KVD as their idol?
Absolutely. Nope. That I always related to him in that way. You know, he was from Michigan. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I'd really say Kevin and Ike and Ellie were probably my two biggest, or, you know, the ones I was the biggest fans of growing up as a kid, and, you know, just always watching and rooting for them. And yeah, you know, just having that Northern connection and knowing, you know, their stories and to watch Kevin just dominate in the early or late 2000s and into the teens, I guess. And it just unbelievable to be even just fishing against him now. You know, it was crazy. The first tournament of the year, just launching the boat next to him, I got a little starstruck. I was like, man, that's Kevin Van Dam. Like that's pretty cool. And then to have it come full circle, the last tournament of the year, his last tournament, and to beat him, and that's something I'll hold on to forever.
I always find it weird. Like some of the best in the game are from such non-traditional locations. Like you look at like Clausen and Yellis, like from you know, Polinick, Washington, Oregon, Polinick, Idaho, Ike, New Jersey, Kevin in Michigan, and you try to figure out like how do those guys become so good around the country. It's basically like trying to become a PGA Tour pro and live in Alaska. But in fishing, you have an abnormal amount. And then you've got, you know, Seth Feider, who's won Angler of the Year on bass. You have like just a massive influx of Northern guys. But I guess the only thing I could think of is the Northern guys understand grass and they understand natural lakes. And there's a lot of translation between that grass up north and then the grass down south when you get on the TVAs in Florida, Toledo Bend, Rayburn, that type of stuff. Is that a fair assessment? Did you see a very similarity that you didn't expect to see when you got down south?
For sure. I mean, grass sets up very similar all over the country, you know, and bass just absolutely love being in grass no matter where you're at. So that's definitely one thing. I mean, for me personally, I think growing up around Pittsburgh and fishing the Three Rivers all the time where there's like 20 bass and they're all small, just helped me develop like mental toughness and just like pure focus throughout the day, just because I knew like every single bite I get has to count throughout the day. And that's helped me so much and just making sure I'm extremely efficient and throughout the day and time management. I mean, it's helped me in all of those ways, not even knowing it at the time, but looking back now, like fishing the Three Rivers has just like developed me into that angler that goes that route.
How much time have you spent on that? What is it? The Allegheny, the
Monongahela. Yeah. I mean, I literally, I grew up 5 minutes from a boat ramp, so I was on there every day.
Really? So that's like your home body. That's where you learned how to bass fish, was in Three Rivers, Pittsburgh.
I mean, I've fished the Monongahela River probably more than any other body of water in the country. Yes.
Do you think if you didn't grow up there, you'd be where you are right now?
Probably not. I mean, between the Three Rivers and Erie, so Erie was 2 hours north, and that gave me the Great Lakes smallmouth experience, and really that is so all that experience is what allowed me to win my first Toyota Series, which has snowballed into this. Because without that first win, I wouldn't have had any money to be able to fish the FLW Tour or even had the thought or the dream of doing it. You know, I scraped every penny I could, literally spent the last dollar in my bank account just to sign up for a Toyota Series event on Thousand Islands, and ended up winning that tournament. And that's literally what started this whole career.
I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pulling it through. So that would have been in 2017.
Yep.
Oh, you cashed a check in all three of those, and those were like necessary checks.
Oh, yeah. So that's what I always say. That first tournament at Champlain, I mean, I was flat broke. Like, I remember getting a phone call while I was there that I'd actually forgot to send in my truck payment, and my truck payment was late. Because I spent all the money to fish that Toyota Series on Champlain, and I ended up cashing the check, and that like survived me to pay the balance for the next tournament on Thousand Islands, and I ended up winning that tournament.
Oh, and then that you won that tournament, then you cashed, which then qualified you for the pro circuit or the FLW tour in 2018 because you finished 5th overall. And then you took the money that you won at Thousand Islands and rolled it over into your entry fees for 2018. And then
I didn't have a single paying sponsor. I mean, I got a little bit of money from like friends and my old like club tournaments that I used to fish. Some buddies pitched in like a couple $100 for gas money in here and there. And I mean, I appreciate that so much, but like, I seriously wouldn't be here without that tournament win.
And then you go to Okeechobee in January, which is right after, and you've just paid all these entry fees and you cash a $10,000 check, which gets you halfway through the year. And then you end up having a good year.
Yeah. I mean, I even after winning the Toyota series, I had a bunch of debt I paid off with it and, bought a new boat because I was fishing out of like a 2006 boat that year. So like I bought a new boat and, I financed the boat, but still had to put some money down. And I remember going to Okeechobee. I only had enough money in my bank account to fish the first 3 tournaments. And if I didn't cash a check, I was going to have to back out and not be able to pay the rest of the entry fees for the rest of the year.
I talked to so many of these guys, and the one common theme is you can't fish for checks. You can't fish for money. You can't fish stress thinking about it. The only way you can really do well is if you're free of your mind and you go. But you fished stressed. You fished for checks. You fished with no money in your bank account. What do you think it was that allowed you to catch them and not freak out at 11 when you've got 2 in the box and go, holy cow, if I don't cash a check here, I'm freaking done. And is it mental strength? Is there anything that,
I mean, I feel like it goes back to fishing the 3 rivers, the mental toughness and the strength of that, like just knowing that you're never out of it throughout the day. But I feel like that added pressure helped me just because like, if you have a cold, windy, rainy practice day that, you're like, man, I really don't feel like going out there, but I'm like, I want to find a way to fish for a living. So like, I got no other choice. Like I got to get out there and I got to work as hard as I can. And I got to find a way to make this happen. And, thankfully it all worked out the way it did, because otherwise I'd been in trouble.
Were you 13 when the Classic went there in 2005?
Yeah. So I was born in 92 and that was 05. So I think depending on, it was probably in August. So yeah, I'd probably just turned 13.
And you were into it. Like were you there? You were there and all that.
So my dad had me fishing before I can ever remember. I mean, he says he had me out there when I was, a year old out in the boat fishing, which I mean is a 16-foot deep V boat. It wasn't much, but we're out there fishing and I've always been bass fishing. He got me into kind of like family oriented clubs with like a youth division and fished all that, so probably that time about when I was 13, that was really my first exposure to like the Bassmaster Classic or a major tournament in person. Like, of course we watched it on TV, but that was my first exposure to it in person. And, I'm sure that is what rooted the love for where I'm at right now.
Had you fished tournaments before that, or did you just enjoy fishing? So you fished tournaments when you were like before, like as a kid.
Oh yeah. We like the club we fished was Western Pennsylvania Bass Association, and it was more like a really laid back club tournament. Like there was rarely even any money involved. It was just kind of get together and have fun and have the little competition. So they had a youth division, and I always fished in that. And honestly, it was probably about when I was 13 or 14 that they kicked me out of the youth division and put me in the adult division because they wanted some other kids to win.
Is that club still around?
Yeah. I mean, I know they still do it. My dad still goes to a few of them just to hang out with the guys.
You got to go back and jackpot one next year, dude.
I know, right? I should go show up and,
you should definitely go back and jackpot one of those events.
Yeah.
So have you even thought about next year? Like, have you reset your goals, your objectives? You're at the top of the mountain now. One of the things that I've noticed in talking to guys is there's some guys that just achieve. And then other guys, I've had some buddies that were like, man, I made it. And then I achieved what I wanted to. And I didn't really have any goals for what's next. And I kind of floated around for a while. You seem like a goal driven type of individual.
For sure. Definitely goal driven, but no, I haven't even thought about the next step or the next goal, the next year. I'm kind of waiting to see the schedule. That's when it all starts for me. Like once that schedule's released, like my brain just starts kicking into overdrive and I'm constantly thinking about the schedule. I find myself at all times of the day thinking about different tournaments and bodies of water and what might go down. And so once the schedule comes out is really when I start thinking about next year. And then, I really think about it throughout the fall. And I always like to, I write down my goals. So I make a note in my phone somewhere around the new year with my goals for each year. And, I can't believe it, but I was just looking at them from this year this morning, and I had win an event, top 10 AOY, and weigh 5 fish every day for my main 3 goals on the Bass Pro Tour, and we did them all.
Really? There can't be that many at the top level who put their goals down and achieve every single one.
Yeah, it is. Like it gives me goosebumps talking about it, but I would say the last 4 years that I've done that, every goal that I write down in my phone, in my notes, it ends up happening.
I'm a big proponent. Obviously, I remember the Van Dam had one, but I remember the Brian Thrift streak of 5 fish in every FLW event. And when that broke, they're like, that'll never be broken. Like in the opens that I fish, I pride myself. I think I'm like 18 days in a row with the 5 fish limit.
Yeah,
and it used to be that if you came in with 5 every single day, you'd always make the classic, you'd make the cup, you'd be in the running for like everything. But I feel like, and I am curious as to your reasoning why, I feel like there's a lot more guys coming in with limits over the last couple years, and that 5 fish is now more of a given than it is a goal.
Live scope.
Is that was my question.
Live scope, 100%. I mean, you could chase those individual fish. Like if you only need to catch 5, you can go out there and just troll around all day and find 5 fish and catch them. So that has made the competition so much stiffer and definitely kind of, leveled the playing field of catching a limit every day. But still, there's some bodies of water where it's pretty difficult. But I bet if you looked at some of the best with forward facing sonar over the last few years, that there's not many days that they didn't bring in 5 fish.
No, that's interesting because you doing research on tournaments, it almost seems like there's certain events at certain times of the year. This is how it's always won. This is how much weight it's taking. And we've seen it in the opens. We've seen it now for the last 2 years. Like abstract things are winning. The weights are 3 or 4 pounds heavier, or 2 pounds even, which is a lot of weight, heavier each day than it had been. And you're basically throwing out the history book on what it should take and how it should be won. And that's a direct result of forward facing sonar.
Absolutely.
Were you an early adopter of that?
Yeah. So I would say not super early, but I think I put it on my boat in the 2020 season.
Yeah.
So I think I bought one right before COVID happened. Then the world shut down, the tournament shut down, and I had it on my boat and I went fishing every single day and really learned it. And that, once I, really learned it, it's totally changed me as a fisherman ever since.
Do you think that's why you're also seeing guys like you and eBear and Alton Jones Jr., who haven't been doing this for a million years? Now, you still have been doing it for 7-8 years. It's not like you just showed up on this, but I mean, you're talking about competing against Skeets and Edwins and Kevins and Howells and Chat, like all these guys who have been doing it for decades and decades. Do you think that has drastically reduced the learning curve, or is it the technology that's reduced the learning curve, or is it just a group of talented anglers that are hardworking? Like what is this influx of 20s and 30 guys that are now dominating? And it seems both on both the Bassmaster Elite Series and the BPT at the top of the Angler of the Year standings.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of all of that. Of course, the technology, like we grew up in the YouTube era and all the information available online, that you can learn so much so fast if you spend the time and actually learn the information, not just watch the videos or read it. Like if you actually take it, apply it to yourself, and then kind of make it your own, figure out how it works for you and, kind of tweak it to fit your style. But combination of that and, being familiar with electronics and obviously Live Scope has made a huge role in that as well. But I think it's a combination of all that thing. And then, just generational talents for sure. I mean, like me and Wheeler are very close to age, and that guy is just absolutely the best fisherman in the world, no doubt.
I don't think people give him credit for his the cerebral aspect of the game. Like there's not an aspect of the game that he's not a top-notch thinker on and hasn't spent a lot of time dissecting. Like every aspect of the game, like the little minute stuff that guys pass, like he dives into that. And I think he takes advantage of those things that a lot of people overlook. It's just that's funny
you brought that up, because Brittany and I, my girlfriend, we were just talking about that. So we were watching the Netflix series Quarterback, where they're diving into the quarterbacks, and Kirk Cousins started talking about cerebral training and how he does all these things to keep his brain sharp. And I had honestly never heard of that, but as soon as I saw that, I went online and ordered one, just because I think the mental game is more important than anything. So anything you can do to keep your brain sharp. I mean, I really focus on it, and it's just kind of second nature to me, but I will purposely make sure that I keep my body in shape and, watch what I eat, exercise, all that kind of stuff. Start like preparing my body and my brain for a tournament, a week or two in advance, and like totally like commit everything to bass fishing. Like you have to be totally prepared from a physical, mental, emotional standpoint. Like so many things go into it. And obviously the big man upstairs praying about it, all that stuff is plays into being a successful tournament angler.
Well, Matt, like I said, I greatly appreciate you doing this. You are minutes away from the St. Lawrence River. I feel bad keeping you for more, because I know you're going to dump your boat in, and probably the first 3 bites you have today, you'll have a 4, a 5, and a 6-pound smallmouth, and they're smallmouth that are built like nothing else on earth. So I'm going to let you go. I greatly appreciate you jumping on, taking the time. I know you've been swamped since this win, since both wins. And then also make sure to follow at Matt Becker Fishing on YouTube. You have a lot of your recaps and a lot of top baits and things that you put out on your YouTube channel too. Also, any other social media or anything else where you might have stuff dropping that people can follow up on?
Yeah, I mean, we're on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. The YouTube stuff will be coming soon from Saginaw. We're working on editing all that. My girlfriend Brittany does all that, so she handles pretty much all the media side of things. She helps with all that, and so that stuff will be coming soon. But definitely appreciate you having me on. I'm probably one of the biggest fans of you and the show. I watch it every single day. So it's pretty cool to be on here, and I'll always find time to get on here and talk to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I wouldn't want to take any bets against you in this event here on Thousand Islands. When you're hot, you're hot. When you're making good decisions. So I fully expect you to be in the mix on day 3. This one's out of Messina. Thankfully, you have a little bit of cash money in the bank account, because you'll probably be filling up on gas a few times if I was a betting man.
Yeah, we're gonna burn some gas this week for sure. But yep, I'm about to head out. I'm gonna go see if I can find a few smallmouth and hopefully keep this momentum rolling. But appreciate you having me on.
All right, thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
See you.
All right, that was Matt Becker, the latest winner and the 2023 Angler of the Year on the BPT. A couple more thoughts. We'll break down what we got going the rest of the week. After this, BTL on a Wednesday. We'll be back right after this. Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
The great thing about the new Sensation soft plastics from Big Bite Baits, heavily scented, super soft, buoyant, comes in 7 great new shapes. I've got a couple of them of my signature series, the cliffhanger worm and the ramtail craw. Great for a flipping jig, football jig, swim jig, all that. Several other great shapes. Really excited about it. We've worked over the last year, catches fish all over the country, and I think it's going to catch fish for people everywhere you try it.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Shoreline Boat and RV, dock rash, storm damage, collision repair, that deep scratch or gouge from trying to access that secret creek. Shoreline Boat and RV can get your prized possession back in mint condition and looking good on the water, fast. All repairs are done in-house, so they're able to get your boat or RV back to brand new, quickly. All Shoreline's work comes with a rock-solid warranty. Find out more at ShorelineBoatandRV.com, Kansas City, Austin, and Tulsa.
I'm the kind of guy that never leaves a house without a pocket knife, and Gamakatsu's come out with the EDC series of knives. EDC stands for Everyday Carry, so whether you're on the water or off, you can always have it with you. The best thing about it to me is that assisted open feature. With this D2 blade, you've got it right here at your fingertips, so if you can't find your scissors, you need to cut a knot, you need to cut your braid, you've always got it. Make sure you check it out. Never leave home without your Gamakatsu EDC knife.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
All right, welcome back. BTL final segment, kind of dissecting our interview with Matt Becker. Do want to remind everybody to head over to omniafishing.com. Currently on sale, the Zoom trickworm, just the everyday fish catching 6.5 inch Zoom trickworm. You can save $1.24 a pack, $4.95 a pack now on Omnia Fishing. While you're there, sign up. Make sure you make an account and sign up to be an Omnia Fishing member. Same day shipping, orders before 1, free shit. All like they got all sorts of cool stuff over there. That's a website that you can actually like explore, and it's got they take their time. They're trying to make it an entire tackle buying experience. They got a lot of cool stuff coming out that I can't talk about yet, but we'll be able to shortly. Okay, I want to break down, obviously, people love freaking controversy, and I struggle on BTL as far as, do you dive into the I feel like I can have a show that covers everything that's happening in the industry without diving into the controversy. That's the way Jeffries did this when we started BTL 18 years ago. Yes, there are certain things that I think need to be talked about. I kind of experimented with it when I dove in with the deal that went on with me and Milliken, but I feel like I had a right to do that because I was personally firsthand involved there. I also learned through that experience how much BS is out there and how many people want to talk and say things like they know what went down, when I would look and get messages and read things and be like, well, that's just like wrong. Like that's just factually wrong. And there's people out there that are doing stuff and talking about it and saying that they know what went on when they don't. So if I take that and extrapolate that to mine, I don't want to talk about, say anything, because there's always two sides to every story. And if something just seems completely outlandish and not true, it typically is. Like you can go to both sides and get both sides and be like, okay, well, I see why this guy feels completely justified in doing this. I feel why this organization did this or didn't do this. And then there's some stuff that I think transparency is good, but there's also value in not knowing. Like, we don't have to know like everything. It doesn't add value to the sport. It doesn't add value to the viewing experience. And it's a kind of a slippery slope. Matt was the one who wanted to address that on the show. He's like, hey, can we talk about this? He goes, because I did nothing wrong. I cleared every protocol, every investigation, everything that I did. He's like, and I'm getting slammed. And from what I've known of Matt, and I've spent some time with him at media events, I spent some time with him at Kurt Dove's Pro Bass Camp. I've talked with him off the record, chatted with him at ICA. The dude is a straight shooter, 100% by the rules. And it's so easy to get on and just absolutely blast someone when you weren't there. You don't actually know what happened. You don't know what went down. You're taking something that you heard second or third hand and you're reading message boards. And what you have to understand is there are thousands and tens of thousands of hours. I mean, you talk about the dedication that Matt went through to get to the level that he's at, putting his financial life, his career, his job, his family life, all of that on the line. And then in this day and age of social media, for you to be able to go on and just slam a guy and then be like, oh, well, his accomplishments are not valid because of something that happened before that he had been cleared with, had done nothing wrong, had not broken any rules. That's just freaking wrong, because that's a dude who worked his ass off and accomplished things. Now, I say that in one hand. On the other hand, I also like the social media and the feedback, because it is instantaneously holding people accountable or perceptually accountable for things, because they know, hey, if we try to sweep this under the rug, this is going to blow up on social media. And that wasn't the case even 10 years ago. This stuff has gone on in professional bass fishing and every individual sport where you have individual contractors that are trying to gain an advantage to be the best that they can, who understand the rule book. They do this for a freaking living. They have time to sit down and read the rule book. They're not working a 9 to 5. Like, that's his job, is to know the rule book. You know who knows the rule book really well? Jacob Wheeler. You know who knows the rule book? All these guys that follow this, they know the rule book and what they can and can't do. Now, this is where the gray area comes in. The gray area comes in when you start talking about intent, spirit of the rule, that type of thing. And that's an individual interpretation of that rule. I can see both sides of that. I could say, well, the spirit of this rule is they don't want you catching the same bedfish twice in a day because it's not sporting, because it harms the fish, because you have to find more fish. I get that spirit of the rule. And there are some people who brought that up. But I also 100% see the other side of the rule to say, hey, I'm reading this rule, and the way it is written, it says visibly sight fishing a fish once per day. So if I can visibly sight fish a fish, and then I could go back and I'm not seeing it, I don't know if that fish is still up there. I promise you there are a bunch of guys who tried to visibly sight fished a fish at Cayuga or at another vet, and then back off to where they can't see it. They come back later, they spend 45 minutes on it, and that fish doesn't bite, and they waste their time. Did he break a rule? No, he didn't. He was cleared. All those guys were cleared with the exception of Spencer Shuffield, which I also said in that press release. It didn't say, hey, Spencer snagged these fish. That's also up for interpretation of that. But to the kind of gang up mentality of that over a guy who's busting his ass and working his, I mean, there's a bunch of good dudes out there, but like I said, I see both sides of it. It fires me up. And then I kind of get caught between a rock and a hard spot as far as what do you talk about? What do you not talk about? How much do I want to chase the views? How much do I want to just stick to straight up fishing content of what went down? Guess what? It's worked for 18 years, 19 years of BTL. Lord willing, it'll work for another 19 years of BTL. But Matt brought that up. He wanted to talk about it. That's why. All right. Tomorrow, Frank Scalish, special guest, Todd, the prop guy, is on. Frank has a new prop out. We're going to have Todd on to talk about that. And then a really cool show. Frank is going to talk about very timely topic. Frank is going to talk about targeting smallmouth and current for half of the show. And then a cool show next week. The cameraman from KVD's Kings of Bass, Strike King Lou's cameraman, is going to come on to talk about spending the week with Kevin up at Saginaw Bay for a second place finish. And then also Mark Copley, Strike King Lou's, and Tom Brubaker are going to talk about the impact that KVD has, and will continue to have on the tackle industry. Hey, I don't do this very often. I really appreciate it. We're getting back in the swing of things in studio shows. Give this show a thumbs up if you're watching it on YouTube. Also, if you have not created a YouTube account, create a YouTube account, follow BTL, click the bell in the bottom or top corner. That allows you, when we go live on BTL, sends you a notification. Also, if you haven't left a review on iTunes or your podcast listening platform, please jump on there, 1 through 5 stars, and tell me why you do or don't like BTL. But that's all we got for today. We'll see you tomorrow for day 4 with the man, Frank Scalish. That's it. We're out.